Getting involved with addicts. Again, as I do your channelings, I see many of you ask questions about your current life. And that's not even in respect to past lives or anything like that. Often you will admit that your life is dysfunctional, but so far I haven't seen any that have admitted to having drinking or drug problems. That's because addicts think what they're using is the solution, not the problem. They have it on backwards. They don't understand there are better ways of fixing life's problems instead of fixing your moods. You can only fix a mood for so long before it comes back due to alcoholism. A problem you can fix and have it leave forever. It is not implant communication's prerogative to get involved in your dysfunctional lives. Maybe my other videos stated that clearly, but if not, let me say it here. I certainly am not interested in hearing a play-by-play dialogue of how your life is sinking into desperation. I will state one thing outright: the power over others system is a codependent system. Because we have to relate to another person in order to determine where our power is at. Am I more powerful than him, or is he more powerful than I am? The power over self system is a system where you increase your own power, and it has nothing to do with finding ways to control or manipulate others. And it has nothing to do with the way you relate to your twin flame or ideal partner. It's not a power game between you two. Alcoholism and drug addiction do. Very much so. If you are with someone who is in the power over others thinking, you are with a person who may be predisposed to being an alcoholic or drug addict. This is not good for you, because the alcoholic or drug addict, the shopping addict or the food addict, the workaholic or whatever they're addicted to, does two things: they avoid emotions and intimacy, and they spend money on their addictions, your money. Everything that people are addicted to costs money. And so they are always on the lookout for a sugar mama or a high-earning man in order to pay for their habit. This is often why people who are addicted seek relationships with others, so they can get to their money. I was with someone like this for 3 years. And he took every cent I had. He still ended up dead on the street a few years later of an overdose. We could not afford to pay the rent, and we had to live off of food banks to be able to eat, because he drank and used crack and smoked. The addict does not care about anything else, they only care about getting their next fix. They will let you take a fall, it doesn't matter to them. But they will act like your best friend as long as you put out the dosh. The minute you shut your wallet, they will either beat you for money or find someone else. That is the harsh reality of addiction. As long as you provide cash for this person, you will have a friend for life, but you will not have a life. There will be no comfort in wheeling your bundle buggy to the Salvation Army for handouts, nor pride in standing in line at the church so you can get a $25 voucher for the grocery store. Your worn-out shoes, ripped clothes, and inability to pay the rent will leave you wondering why you bother with this person, and the black eyes and 911 calls don't really soothe your soul either. I've been there. I've done all that. It ended in 2012, and by 2015 he was dead. Alcoholics and drug addicts are always cooking up excuses to fight, argue, and get mad. Then they can justify their habit because they believe their habit relieves their pain. In actuality, their habit causes their craziness. Addicts want your money. And if you think, well, I don't have very much money. What could he find so attractive about me? It doesn't matter. You have more than they do. And they can manipulate you out of it. That's what makes you attractive. The addict will always believe that they have their priorities straight, because many addicts believe themselves to be normal and the rest of the world is flawed. I used to think like this until I got into the 12 steps. The addict is often a victim, and ironically they fear the rest of the world while the rest of the world is cautious, if not outright in fear of them. Their aggressive nature is often barely concealed. To try to reel you in, an alcoholic or drug addict will often tell you how much their life sucks, but they will never tell you that they're using. They will protect that fact because this is the reason they're alive, to get their next fix. The alcoholic or drug addict will do everything they can to make you feel sorry for them. Do you really want to be with someone you pity? Is this what you consider a relationship? I did at one time. It was because I felt sorry for myself and I, too, was addicted. I strongly suspect that many women become involved with addicted men because then they have someone to blame. These people are in the power over others system and they have learned to blame and to complain instead of to look at themselves, and being with an addict fulfills that need to find someone to blame and to bitch about. In other words, they got married with the intention of finding someone they could scapegoat. My mother did it. The 12 steps teaches the addict and the codependent to stop scapegoating and to look at themselves. The alcoholic/drug addict will protect their supply no matter what. And they require people around them to buy their stuff for them. They will have parents they can use to get their fix through or money to buy their fix, or girlfriends, friends who are probably fed up of them. They will use anyone they can. People keep giving them money because it's easier than saying, no, this is enabling. Addicts are very moody. They go through mood swings and then need to get a fix. This is because the brain is out of equilibrium and they're suffering from hormone imbalances. They have low blood sugar. I have seen alcoholics quit booze only to eat donuts, cookies, and sugary coffees, then they gain even more weight. The one thing that the alcoholic/drug addict will do is smile to your face so you don't see what's coming. Then your life will sink downhill because they're tapping you for every red cent you own. I went through that for 3 years. I won't do it again. The other thing addicts are good at is making excuses. They will do everything they possibly can to stay addicted. It doesn't make sense to someone who can see more clearly than they can, but for some reason they seem to think of booze and drugs as the only thing that can help them through their miserable lives. Is this what you want? Do you want to be involved with this? Everyone knows someone with addiction problems. If you don't, you've probably been living in a monastery or under a rock. Addiction is more common than hangnails, but it's a lot more painful to live with. I have one recommendation with anyone considering a relationship with an alcoholic or drug addict: don't. You have to look at what it is within yourself that would make you consider ruining your life like this. Why would that be appealing to you? If you suspect someone is an addict that you're dating, think twice about continuing. It can get very bad, very, very bad. There are 12-step groups for enablers as well. Al-Anon and Nar-Anon are adult groups for people married to or involved in any way with addicts. Of course, for the addict the only way to go is Alcoholics Anonymous, and for the drug addict Narcotics Anonymous. There are people who come into the group and find anything they can that they don't like about it, like they don't like the reference to God in the group, usually called a higher power. Yes, but living out of homeless shelters and living hand to mouth on the street, getting rolled for your watch or your cell phone while you're passed out drunk, and living a life of desperation seem better to you than talking about God? Do they? Then you haven't hit bottom yet. God help you when you do. I only hope your bottom isn't death, because it is for some. My friend never hit bottom. He died before he did. His bottom was death. If Skid Row or a coffin look better to you than talking about God, I'm sure your higher self can provide the opportunity for you. I knew at that time that if I stayed with him, I could keep him alive and he'd still be alive now. I left him because I knew he was going to beat me, so it was either he died or I die, so I had to make that awful decision. This is the sort of situation you could end up in when you get involved with an alcoholic or drug addict. I had to choose to live, but in doing that I knew he would die, and I did know that. Is this what you want? For those of you who love people with problems of this kind of insanity, I have one question for you: why? Why do you need this level of dysfunction in your life? If you are drinking and can't stop, or doing drugs, these are the real problems. Not your family, not your wife or husband who doesn't seem to care, not your low income, not anything. They are the first problem that must be resolved, and the only way to do that is to stop. And it can be done. It has been done by many, many people using the 12 steps. Many rock stars, movie stars, TV stars, and just ordinary everyday people who tried to escape or enhance their lives with booze and drugs are now clean and sober. And thinking like a normal person again. Don't think that polluting your body with that level of poison is going to keep you thinking straight, because it's not. Many addicts suffer from anxiety and depression and use to relieve these problems. We call it self-medicating. The 12 steps restores you to sanity. The way to restore you to sanity is to admit you have a problem. If you can't, you will still have a problem. I endorse the 12 steps for any addiction problem. Codependence Anonymous is where I learned many of the principles I needed in order to allow my higher self to be embodied here on 4D Earth. I learned to work boundaries and to stop getting walked all over. I left the power over others system and I haven't looked back. If you are dating, check your prospect out first to see if they are using. So many people use these days, it's an epidemic. There are many articles on alcoholism and drug addiction. One of the main ways to tell is if the person is always dragging you to places where either they can get high or drink. If you're always in bars with them and you never were before, that's a sign something's wrong. If you suggest an event that's dry and they fight you not to go, or refuse to attend with you, something's wrong. If they have friends that come by but never stay long, check that out. These days many dealers just do phone call deliveries. Watch on Friday nights to see what your neighbors are up to. In my neighborhood cars always pull up. She's sitting in the front seat, while he goes to the door of the apartment of the users. There are 2 apartments in my old building where it's happening right now. I just sit on my porch and say, drug delivery. If they seem secretive, be careful. There are many things you need to look for. Lying is another one. If you confront them, they'll lie. Addicts always lie and that has to do with protecting their supply. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. Are they nice people? Yes, oftentimes they are. But they're screwed up and they need help. You will only get caught up in a terrible situation with them. When you involve children, it's even worse. Not worth it. Not worth it. Not worth it.